Hi everybody, welcome to Revitalise Meets, where I get the opportunity to meet key influencers, business leaders and business entrepreneurs from around the globe. And today I've got the great pleasure to be with a gentleman who's got over 15 years, remember, 15 years worth of experience in training and development. Can you please welcome with me today the one, yes, but the only, Mr. Stuart Harris, the Tartan trainer. Stuart, how are you today?
I'm very well, Lee. Thanks very much. A lovely introduction as well, so appreciate that. Yes.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And as we spoke prior, I'm wearing my tartan waistcoat for you today, especially.
Well, obviously, I wear my tartan shirt. I always wear something tartan. I don't know whether you picked up, but I'm Scottish.
Never, really?
So I do. I always wear a tartan shirt, and of course, when sometimes people see my videos, they go, "Oh, that tartan's a bit noisy. It's a bit garish." It's my life. But yeah, where the tartan trainer came from, I think I was just looking through some shopping channels or something like that. And I came across these things, or this thing. And it is a tartan trainer.
What's the word they normally use?
I got the pair. I got both of them. I didn't get a discount for just buying one. So I actually wear these when if I'm speaking at an event. And sometimes they get missed, so I make sure I make a scene of it. If I'm on a stage, if I'm speaking at an event, I always pick my feet up rather jauntily, so people can see my tartan trainers.
Brilliant. So, pure belter or Bobby Dazzlers.
Bobby Dazzler. And of course, somebody did say to me, but the thing is, Stuart, you're a speaker, you're not a trainer. And of course, I do both and much more. And they said tartan trainer's not going to work if you know how people like to prick your bubble. And I said, so what are you suggesting, that I go to America just so that I can say to people, I'm Stuart Harris, the tartan sneaker speaker? So if you know anybody that's looking for a speaker with a funny accent in America, send them my way.
Absolutely brilliant. I keep a note of that. I've got a few people I'm speaking to this week, so thank you, Stuart. Stuart, can we start this morning or today, can we start about you telling everybody a bit about your business journey up to date, if you don't mind, over the last 15 years, if you can fit it in?
Yeah, well, I've actually been out on my own for just over 15 years and months. It probably started long before that, though. I worked in hotels as a waiter and barman, front of house, did kitchen, which I hated because I didn't get to show off. But in the restaurants, I could cook at the tables. I could make cocktails, and not quite Tom Cruise, but, and it wasn't the throwing the things up and the cocktail shaker up. So I started in that. And at one stage, I was an assistant manager about to be made into the manager of a hotel in St Andrews, Scotland. And the guy that owned it was a Scottish expat, and he had a couple of places out in America. And he said, I want you to come to America. I'll pay for your flights. I'll pay for your accommodation. I'll pay for your food. You can pay for your drink. And if you eat anywhere else, you're on your own dollar. And he said, because I want you to see what Americans expect. Because St Andrews is huge for golf, as many people will know. And we've got lots of Americans coming across and said, I want you to see what they're expecting in the restaurant and the bars. So I went across for 2 weeks in Florida and had an absolute blast, but picked up so much about being customer focused. And that stuck with me all through my life. So I did that for 16 years, then get into sales, worked for Coca-Cola for 7 years as a sales executive and sales manager. And I was doing some training as well. So they brought me in to do some training. Something new is getting launched in the region in Scotland, and Norfolk I was for a while as well. And so I was doing training, but I was also doing some national accounts. And it got to that fork in the road, and I need to pick a lane, and that's a lane, not pick a lane. That's a different story. And I thought, do I go down the sales route or do I go down the training route? And I just loved the training route. That getting an audience, getting a dozen people in the room or whatever. And I just loved that. Moved from there to be a sales trainer for a large group of contact centres, and was then made redundant. As oft happens with people, consultants and people that go out on their own, it's often not through choice. And I thought, do I go back working for the man, or do I make it on my own? And I've been doing it for 15 years, and as yet, I've yet to be found out. So my main thing is working with people to help them win more customers, serve them better, and keep them longer. That's the three main things. and that covers a huge amount. I do a lot of stuff with people in call centers. I do people feel small businesses now as well. Even one-man operators. I'll do coaching and mentoring for people like that as well. Absolutely love it. Best job in the world.
And I think it's that old phrase that you hear. It's like people buy from people, and people normally forget about the customer service. They forget about the customer service journey afterwards.
Yeah.
Also that retention, which we'll come on to later on, that retention of that client. And it's funny how life has a way of coming along and giving you a little bit of a knock, and you go, okay, but sometimes it's a pretty decent knock. It's knocked you in the right direction to then try something else, to venture and think, do you know what? I'm going to step out my Tartan trainers on my own type feel to it. So congratulations on doing that. It's a great journey so far. You've had so many different achievements and successes that you've had over the years, and things that you spoke to me about, customer programs across Europe, across the globe. But what's been your biggest achievement year to date that you can feel really proud of? That's part of you.
I've been in a number of programs where I've gone into organizations and just see that transition. Now, whether that's I did some work for a company up in Dundee, and they had 6 people on the phones. And I know a lot of people measure the success of training through happy sheets. Do you get all the ticks in the box? And trust me, the first thing that a trainer does when they get them is they go through and they go, that's a 10, that's a 10, that's a 10, that's a 9, 10, 5. And very early on, I measured my success. If I had got a 5, I'd be crushed. And then I don't know whether it's the arrogance in me. I just thought, that's not my fault. That's just them. If everybody else is saying you're doing well, but not everybody likes everybody. So that's one way to but that's not measuring success. So what I do with organizations now, I get some detailed information about their key performance indicators, sales conversion, sales per hour, retention figures, first call resolution. And I get all of those before I go in. And then I will go in, and you don't call it training, you call it an intervention. So an intervention covers everything. It could be speaking at an event. It could be, which is much harder to measure. It could be coaching. It could be workshops. It could be webinars, whatever. And I have that intervention. So going along with that, there's an intervention, and often there isn't. People think there's a spike. All trainers will say, "I'll come in and you go from there to there, and you'll stay there." No, they won't. If they're doing that, they're not doing it right some way. Because if you go along like that, there tends to be a dip straight after the training as people are trying new things. They're trying on new shoes. They're trying new techniques. And then it goes up. But it's not just a one intervention activity. It's what goes on after that. And that could be coaching. It could be management development. So they're reinforcing your training. And some of my big successes is where you see a team or and obviously if I'm getting into people, they'll often go, tell you what, you take the worst team that we have and let's see what you can do with them. And then 3 months later, you find out the worst team in the operational floor are the ones that are getting the trip to New York because they're the most successful sales team. And that is just huge, seeing other people doing well. That's why I'm in training and not in management, because obviously management's a lot of the development of the people. But I can go, that's where it happened. It happened at this point, and that's the point I made a difference. So I've done some major campaigns. I've helped Sky open up 8 call centres, Tesco Bank Insurance open up 2 major call centres, Newcastle, home to you, yep. And Glasgow. And they're big programmes. And sometimes it's a bit like doing a proper job. Don't you remember those days? It's a while. Basically doing a proper job, and you go in, but you're part of something big. Yeah. And apart from that, one of my, outside of the work thing, I decided a couple of years ago, I know you're going to ask me about my development. One of my things that I did as part of my personal development was I tried stand-up comedy.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm stepping outside my comfort zone. Because I'm comfortable standing in front of it, as you probably can imagine. I'm very good at talking, not very good at listening. But I thought I'm going to push the boundaries. Did a stand-up comedy workshop, and the first gig that I ever did was at the Stand in Glasgow, and and I was on second because I was the baby. I was probably about 55 at the time, but I was the baby. And I only get 5 minutes, and other people get 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes. And he said, but there's a gap at 9 o'clock. We've got a local comedian wants to come in and try new material, Frankie Boyle.
Oh, never.
So my first ever gig, I opened for Frankie Boyle, and it's on my CV. If you check my website, I've claimed that. And that was fantastic. So, and anybody that presents in any way at all, I strongly suggest try a comedy workshop. There's so many transferable skills, so many. So that's the fun stuff.
No, I mean, it's a great answer and success. Thank you for sharing your successes and achievements, because that's a great success in its own. To stand up 5 minutes feels like a lifetime when you're standing in front of an audience, you know, and then you've also got to make sure you got the right content and the right delivery that you're putting in there, and also the right research that you put in. Sometimes it's improv that goes into play, but really well done on that.
And it's a tough gig, because it's not like back in the days in the maybe 70s and 80s where people weren't, you know, they couldn't go to the Dave channel or, you know, Saturday night. Well, it probably was Saturday night they played it. People just go, I'm taking that material and go and work the clubs. Now everybody's gone to YouTube to watch their favourite comedians or a whole range of different things like that. So you've got to come up with your new stuff. So it's developing new material, which is transferable, editing, and bringing it down and structuring and remembering it.
Yeah. You
know, when you're in an audience of 150 people and a spotlight in Glasgow, and they're going, you know, we're used to, you know, Kevin Bridges and Billy Connolly, and you're next, are you? No, I'm not. I'm just playing. Yes, it's great fun. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And again, I can't stress that enough. Congratulations on doing that. And you've got some great experience in regards to Coca-Cola and some of these big top brands that are in there. But how have you adapted? So we talk about adapting on stage, adapting to an audience, but especially what we've been going through recently with the pandemic and everything else. How have you adapted your business journey over the last 12 months? Would you mind sharing that with everybody?
Yeah, massively. I think I think the anniversary of lockdown is tomorrow, Tuesday the 23rd.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a really busy diary. Everything, you know, lots. I was doing a big gig for a major bank. I had other bits and pieces going on as well, and it was all classroom delivery or speaking at an event. And pretty much on that day or within days, when people realised we can't put you in a workshop because we can't put our people in a workshop because everybody's either getting mainly furloughed, and for months it was we're not doing anything. Our guys are on furlough. And I thought, I can't sit and wait for the doors to open again. You know, do I write a book? Do I do whatever it might well be? And I spoke to a number of clients and I said, listen, what if I do some webinars for you? Oh, no, we don't do it. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll do you a free webinar for a dozen of the people in your team. We'll do it for an hour. It's only a portion of what I normally do. And if it works, let's talk turkey. And that's what happened. And more so towards the end of last year. And still, I'm taking everything I did in workshops and put it into online learning courses. You know, so I'm building a hub of different courses that I'm doing. And it's all customer service and communication skills on the phone and call structure and a whole range of different things.
It's good when you think about, though, it's like test and measure. So, I mean, it's like what you said before, you're adapting to overcome the objectives that are in front of you, but you've got an objective that you want to achieve. And I think we can go back to the stand-up, the comedy. You know, you've got to try it, put it out there, give people something first as well to let them see what you can actually do and how you can deliver it. I think there's many people that stand on the back foot and went, oh, no, I'm not embracing that too much at the minute. But you had to really step out on that uncomfortableness, if you want to call it, and then embrace it to get more comfortable being in there as well. So yeah, you've got to adapt to the environments that's around you at the time.
Yeah, if you stand still, you're dead. And I'm sure everybody that's listening to this call has had to adapt in some way, whatever it is they need to do. It's crucial. You know, if you've just got, and the good thing is, it wasn't a matter of last year I suddenly had to decide I need to up my game or need to the word that's frowned upon a lot is I need to pivot. But pivoting is like completely changing everything you got. You're no longer going a similar path. Pivoting, and apparently in basketball terms, is pivot. You stand on one foot and you turn around and you go 180 degrees the opposite direction. Yeah. That's not the case. It's a matter of what are you doing? What are you doing very well that you have mastered over the years? It's just a different way of delivery. Yeah. So what are you doing now? Very true. And it's good to share that as well and how that works and everything else. So with everything that you've adapted to overcome, could you share with everybody what's your golden top 3 tips, but from a customer service perspective and customer retention? What would you share with somebody who's out there who's trying to realign their customer delivery? I think it starts, I think it was Julie Andrews that once said, it starts at the very beginning. It's a very fine place to start. It's getting people on board, and I'll come back to that in a second. But once people sign up to whatever it is that you do, whether it's a product or a service, it's the onboarding, it's the delivery, and it might be they're buying a package of Tartan trainers. Any chance to show them? They might be buying a packet of, so what's the delivery like? And a lot of people, Amazon come in for a lot of stick, for a number of reasons, but they deliver a fantastic service. You go, and I've bought a number of things in the past, and you can't fault them for the service and, the speed and so I'm going to say the packaging, but sometimes that big package for that tiny wee thing that you're actually buying. And that I'm turning into a bit of a hippie as I got older. I was up in the moors beside East Kilbride yesterday, picking up litter with a big bag in my picker upper. So I'm getting into a bit of a hippie, stop wasting paper and cardboard and stuff like that. But it's that delivery, and with, I think, good suppliers as well. It's the follow-up as well. It's the onboarding. And I've worked with customers, with some of my clients, like could be, let's say, an insurance company, said, we're great at getting them in. But as soon as the policy is finished, as soon as the premium, the package is over, a phone company might be as well. As soon as it's over, you get your reminder to say you're out of contract. You don't need to do anything real, look after you, just carry on, and people just ignore it because they're lazy, and they've got no contact from people signing on the line, which is dotted, till the time when it's at the end of the contract. The successful ones, and a lot of the clients I work with now, is like, what are you doing for the first month? What are you doing when it hits winter? Are you sending them out some information about how to not so much the house. It could be a car insurance. How are you preparing your car? Here's some top tips on how to prepare the roof come springtime, or here. And it's that onboarding trickle, so that when it comes to the end of the contract, people don't go, I've not heard of them for the last 2 years. And the thing is, insurance companies, it's critical because they don't make any money until somebody's been with them for 2 years. So if you leave after a year or 2 years, they're losing money on you. So it's that whole onboarding. It's the engagement. That's number one. How do you bring them in? And a lot of people measure politicians on their first 100 days. What are you doing for your clients for your first 100 days as well to bring them on? Are you sending them a thank you card? Is it worthwhile to send them maybe a bunch of flowers if it's something major, or some sort of recognition? But it's that, if you think your customer life cycle is there to there, what are you doing at the here, and just before they're due to look at a price comparison website and go elsewhere? Yeah. What's actually going on. So there's that. And one thing as far as the onboard, getting people in, is train your people up. If they're doing calls, phone calls, telesales, inbound or outbound, for God's sake, give them a call structure. Don't just put them in the phone and they meander and they make it up as they go along. They need to be... and don't give them a tight script, because that doesn't allow rapport. What if the customer suddenly asks you a question you're not expecting? Give them a script. How do you get in? And I liken it to going on a map, going on a journey from Land's End to John O'Groats. The structure would be something like, start here. Well, before you get started, planning and preparation, then you start, then go to Bristol, then go to Liverpool, then go up to Carlisle, and then go to obviously the centre of the universe, Glasgow. Then you go to Edinburgh, then you go up to there, Aberdeen. And so give them stages to go for. And that call structure is one of the big things. One of probably my most popular subject, because I think it's so important getting people in. So that's that.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Appreciate sharing that. I think it's always so good to have a structure and process in place without just diving in there, without having that plan and preparation done prior to anything. I think that's the same in anything that we do, and especially customer service perspective, is that you've got your onboarding at the beginning, and then you've also got the after sales, because I came from a car sales background. So, for me, a client was going to come back and buy a car from me 3 years down the line, but it wasn't about the car. It was about the service to the client that was really important. And if they enjoyed the service and they got on really well with you, and they got that great service delivery from the establishment, they're going to come back and buy from you time and time again and travel around. So I think customer service is so poignant right about now. So thanks for sharing that. Really do appreciate that, Stuart. What have you learned about yourself? I mean, we spoke about it a lot today, but what have you learned about yourself, your business, training, and something that I speak about quite a lot recently is time to self-reflect. So what have you learned in your self-reflection over the last few weeks, the last 12 months?
Again, it's a lot longer than that, and I won't give you the full story. I like to call it self-evaluation rather than self-reflection. And I think possibly the best model, and I live by this, and every training course I get delegates to do this. I speak at an event, I talk about this. When I was at Coca-Cola, my boss came out with me one day, and we'd been in seeing one of the big supermarkets when I was doing national accounts. And it was about the Christmas promotions. The holidays are coming. Truck, is it going to visit you? Are we going to give you panda bear? Or not panda bears, don't say that. Polar bears, so you can put them in the shop, so that we can get extra space and bring out a pallet rather than a dozen packs or 6 packs. And we've been in seeing this customer. And we get into the car, and my boss, Robert Cayley, who I'm still very much in contact with, and we get into the car, and he said, "What's your MLD?" And it's one of these 3-letter acronyms, and I hate people that use TLAs. But Robert said to me, "Don't you dare cringe." I saw that look in your face. but Robert said, "What's your MLD?" I said, "I've got no idea what you're talking to me, what you're saying." And he said, "What could you have done more of? What could you have done less of? And if you had to do that call again, what would you do differently?" And that's a coaching model, because he's asking me, I've got to come up with the answers. What could I have done more of? And I went, well, maybe I could have done X, Y, Z. What could I have done less of? Maybe talk less. What can you? And if I'm doing the call next week, what would I do differently? Maybe planning, preparation. It works really, really well as a coaching model. It also works as a feedback model. If he was going to give me feedback rather than coach me, he could have said, what I think you could have done more of was, I suggest that you do less of that. And next time, what you could do is that. So that's feedback. Self-evaluation. I ask myself the question all the time. I'm running a workshop, I speak at an event, I do a coaching, I do a webinar, whatever it might well be. And at the end of it, and it takes seconds, but I've just got this subconscious question, what's my MLD? And it helps me go, that course was pretty good, but the next time I deliver it, wow, it's going to be so much better. And that is a constant trickle. And I've spoken to a lot of managers and execs, business owners, and they'll go, has anybody ever come across the GROW coaching model? And they all go, oh, yes. I was on a course in it 3 months ago. Fantastic. What does it stand for? Well, it stands for goals. And I help them out, and they just can't remember what the structure is, because it's overcomplicated, which tells me they don't use it. And I'll go, let me tell you this one, and they'll love it. And the next time I see them, I bumped into somebody in a lift at Tesco Bank, and the guy went, I remember when you helped us set up the insurance centre, the call centre in Newcastle. You were one of the guys that sort of ran the training. And I had no idea who he was. And I went, yeah, he said 2 things. One, I remember you told me that your nephew played for Hibs, but also more importantly, you told us about MLD, and I've used it every day since. And I'm a big softie at heart, but you just go, that's the thing that makes the difference. That is huge, absolutely huge for me.
And it's good when you see that and it's happening. It's many people don't take the time to self-reflect on something that's happening, but also what would you have done differently?
Yeah.
Not as a negative, but as a positive thing. And okay, I did well there, but I could have done that instead. How can I implement that now? And I think people need to do that a lot more. And, networking that I talk about quite regularly, it's that people go out there and do it, but they never review or relate themselves to what they've done in networking, because they think conversations happen just like that.
Yeah.
Trying to build upon that. Thanks
and a lot, just before we skip off that, a lot of people will use, I think the formal name is a praise sandwich. You know what it means. I know what it means. And anybody watching this goes, yeah, I don't call it that. Nobody calls it a praise sandwich. We all know what they call it, but I'm far too polite to say what it is, especially if you're Glasgow and you use Glasgow words in it as well. And let me just say, it's not a sandwich, it's a piece. You can fill in the blanks. But they maybe use that. So you're getting that, you're getting a pat in the head because any minute now you're about to get hit across the back of the head with the negative stuff. Or they'll use a stop, start, continue model, which is a bit better, but there's still that negative in there. And I would say coaching should be positive reinforcement of what you're actually doing.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with that. And it's a learning curve all the time. We've got to be learning from it all the time as well. So, what with everything we spoke about today, the adapting to the course, the route to destination that you're traveling to, the achievements, successes that you've had, the wealth of knowledge that you've brought to many, many people over 15 years or so. What's next? What's round the corner for Mr. Stuart Harris and the Tartan trainer? What's next for you?
I don't think I'm getting back into a training class at least till the end of this year. And then maybe even longer, depends how this thing goes on.
True.
I don't see me speaking at a conference with 300 people, 500 people, 1,000 people. I don't see me doing that maybe for 3 years. I think the way forward is online, webinars, down Zoom. I couldn't even spell Zoom this time last year. And I'm so gutted that why did nobody say at that time, you know what you should do? Buy some shares in Zoom. How many of us wish we had shares in it?
Oh, I tell you.
But the future, I see the future in my world and so many others is hybrid events. And what a hybrid event will be for me, there might be some people who have got their vaccine and they're ready to go back to work and they're sitting. So let's say you've got a group of a dozen people. You've got 4 or 5 or 6 people sitting in a training room with me on a big screen. And there's 4 or 5 or 6 people sitting at home or somewhere else doing this in Zoom. So I think the hybrid is really going to go in. And my niece does event management, so putting on gigs, running festivals and all this stuff. And I was talking to her last night, funnily enough, and I said, how are you? And of course, when I speak to her, she's early 20s, and I speak to her, she says, why do we need to do Zoom? Why can't we just have a WhatsApp, FaceTime, or whatever the hell it is? And I went, you need to learn about Zoom and how to use it, because it's your future. She will be, if she doesn't realize it yet, but in her time, she will be running events like that. Unless you're a fan of the band The Flaming Lips, where not just the band are in big plastic bubbles, but the audience they've got their own bubble and they stand, and it just looks amazing. So Google Flaming Lips concerts and you'll see it. I want my training classes to look like that, but tartan bubbles. So hybrid world is definitely the future. Yeah.
Tartan Bubbles. That's a good band name, I tell you. The Tartan Bubbles.
I would go and see them online.
Definitely. So with everything that's happening next for you, how can everybody who's watching and listening to us today, how can they make contact with your good self?
Well, it'd be fantastic. I'm sure you're going to do this, but anybody more than happy to drop an email. And it's Stuart at thestuartharris.com. The website is thestuartharris.com. Or search me in LinkedIn, and I know you're going to post my LinkedIn profiles. So do that, or better still, give them my phone number. and give me a call. And if it's coming from you, and if they give me this comes from Lee, I'll give them a special offer as well. I'll give them 20% off if it's coming through from you from your network.
Yeah. There you go. You heard it today. You heard it as well, that Stuart is actually giving something away there. So very kind of you.
Keep it to yourself. Don't keep it to yourself. Tell the world.
Tell the world. But it's, as Stuart says, it's quite easy to pick up the phone, dial the number, make the call, have the conversation. Good old-fashioned way of just speaking to somebody over the phone, or connect through LinkedIn. But highly recommend that you make the opportunity to have the chance to connect with Stuart Harris and find out a bit more what he's been doing, especially if you've got a team, or if it's you individually, you're starting to build your team. Find out about the customer service, beginning, middle, and end, how you follow everything through. Stuart, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed it, Lee. And all the best to everybody. Good luck.
You too. Thank you. And thank you to you for watching and for listening to us today as well. And keep an eye out for the next Revitalise Meets that's coming up very, very soon, where I get the chance, as always, to meet business entrepreneurs, business leaders, key influencers from across the global business community. As always, keep safe, keep healthy, and remember, keep connecting. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.